Ready for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Recording in progress.
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Giefer?
Aye. Consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, please?
I will motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Giefer?
Aye. Staff agenda items. First on the docket is our city engineer, Brad Reifsteck, to talk about the consideration of the 2025 gravel road maintenance contract, and then the consideration of the 10-year CIP roadway maintenance plan revision. Brad, can you start us off first with the gravel road maintenance contract?
Yes, Mayor, good evening, and good evening to the council. Tonight I'm seeking a motion to award the 2025 gravel roadway maintenance contract to Klein Brothers and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement. As you know, this current agreement is with Klein Brothers and it expired early last month. The general services that the city is offered by the gravel roadway contractor includes maintaining the gravel road network, purchasing the material, spreading and hauling and grading the material on the gravel roads, and that would also include providing the labor and equipment to do that work. So we did go out and receive quotes for this work. We did receive 2 quotes back, one from Klein Brothers with an average price of $130 per hour. And the second quote was from Miller Excavation with an average price of $143. So staff, because of the past work that Klein Brothers has provided the city with their timeliness and doing exceptional work, city staff is recommending awarding a new contract for gravel road maintenance to Klein Brothers. And I should add that this agreement is for a 2-year term with the option to extend it for 1 additional year. So with that said, I would be happy to answer any questions from council.
Crick, that's anything? Kim, you take a lot of calls from residents about Klein Brothers. I get some calls, I'm sure other council members too. Can you just kind of sum up your experience with our current contractors, Klein Brothers?
The mayor
feedback.
and council members are absolutely wonderful. They are part of the community. They care about Grant. They make Grant a priority, and they're reasonably priced. And they're really nice to people.
I think you
Because
summed
they
it
do
up
get residents that run out while they're trying to grade to talk to them. And they
Yes,
stop.
That is a good point. Their customer service extends to
Absolutely.
the taking the time to talk to residents, and so I think we're very blessed and fortunate to have them. Do you guys have anything to?
I feel like I've only heard good things about them, which is really great.
Okay. We get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Councilmember Cornett?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Giefer?
Aye. Next, Brad, you want to walk us a little bit through the revision to the 10-year CIP roadway maintenance plan in relation to the McCusick?
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, I'm seeking a motion to revise the 10-year CIP for roadway maintenance to include McCusick Road between 88th Street to Manning Avenue in the year 2026. Just some background information real quick. The council did adopt the new 10-year plan at the February 4th meeting of this year, in which McCusick Road was part of a plan to be reconstructed, or at least getting some maintenance dollars in 2027. For planning purposes, we did divide McCusick Road up into 2 roadway segments. The first segment between Highway 96 and 88th Street, and then from 88th Street over to Manning Avenue. And the reason we did this, we had known for over probably a year that the development was going to occur at the old golf course site. And so we were able to negotiate as part of that development agreement that they would do the mill and overlay on the roadway segment between Highway 96 and 88th Street, assuming, all of their property is directly adjacent to McCusick roadway there. And so we thought it would be obviously beneficial to the city and to the developer to get them to do that work. Now the other segment between 88th Street and Manning Avenue, we did back in 2017 have a neighborhood meeting regarding that segment of roadway and actually the entire length. And at that time, the neighborhood wasn't interested in moving forward with petitioning the city for roadway improvements. And mainly because that segment between 88th Street and Highway 96 was just so expensive. There wasn't enough density on that roadway segment to make it cost effective for everybody living on McCusick to have to pay for that roadway segment. And so now that we've got that segment paid for through the developer, and we know that the developer has just started that phase over off of 88th Street. So we know that, again, as part of that development agreement, McCusick Road will be improved between Highway 96 and 88th Street here in the next couple of years. And it generally takes about a year to get through the special assessment process. And so we wanted to get that in front of you to see if we couldn't move that roadway segment up a year from 2027 to 2026. And I think with that, moving that work up, we would try to get some letters out to those residents for next year's project here this fall, so that we can be really proactive and trying to get the neighborhoods to understand, the special assessment process, the difference between a road reconstruction and the maintenance, and even the amount the city would be contributing to that project if they decide to petition for the project. So I guess city staff is recommending that we revise the current 10-year CIP to move McCusick Road segment between 88th Street and Manning Avenue from 2027 to 2026. So with that said, I would be happy to answer any questions that the council would have.
So, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the timing of that, does that give us the opportunity to allay the mobilization cost, or is that still probably something that is going to happen regardless?
So the developer has their own contractor, right? And because the special assessment process requires us to go out for bid for our project, we would still have to probably have those mobilization costs. But I'm assuming the contractor that's doing the work for the developer will see our project out on the, out for bid, and I'm hopeful that they will take a look at our project, and because they're already going to be there, would give us a good bid for that project as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brad, what is, you mentioned about the density from 96 to 88th, and what's the density going from 88th to Manning? Is it more houses? Is it, you mentioned that.
Yeah, so I want to say, on the north, so between 96 and 88th, I want to say there's only like 3 properties. But between 88th and Manning, there's quite a few more. I want to say like 10 or 12 properties. So the density is quite greater, right? There's one big parcel, I want to say on the north side of McCusick, towards 95, and then of course the golf course property. You know, those are the two largest parcels, and they take up that whole segment of roadway between 88th and Highway 96. I think there might be one other parcel that's on Lansing, at the corner of Lansing and Manning, but other than that, all the other properties are, you know, between 88th and Manning Avenue.
And then if I get a follow-up, so you said the golf course, can you assess the golf course on the frontage of that road?
So we basically did that with this development agreement, right? So the developer is doing this project in two phases. The first phase is over off of 88th, south of McCusick. And then the second phase will be the piece that's between 96th and 88th Street. So essentially, we did assess the developer for the roadway. They are doing this roadway improvement, at least along there. You know, the property that is adjacent to McCusick, they are paying for that work. And so I guess in my opinion, I'm assuming they're not technically being assessed for it, but in mine they are, because they're having to pay for it as part of the development agreement.
Oh, I thought you meant there was another one up on the, you know, more towards Manning, but my mistake.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand your question?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So I had a question for you, Brad. Given the improved efficiency, reduced project costs, what do you think the likelihood is that when you meet with the residents, they'll go ahead and, you know, with a majority vote to approve it? What's the basic, like, ballpark difference compared to the figures that you were giving them now to what you anticipate giving them when you meet with them next? And would those figures, new figures, be in line with other assessments that have more density?
Yeah, so I mean, basically both roadway segments are about the same length, right? So the price of each segment is about the same. So if you're reducing half the cost to those residents between 88th and Manning, you're going to reduce the assessment that we talked about back in 2016 or 27 by half. And I want to say it was around, and I don't quote me on this, but I want to say it was around $19,000 or $20,000. And so if we get it back down to a reasonable amount, like $10,000 or $12,000, I think they may decide to petition the city for this project. But again, there's no guarantee, right?
And if they don't, we still have the option to order it too. The city.
You certainly could. It's just not something that we've done in the city of Grant, right? So our typical protocol is, you know, we put this CIP together, we mail out a letter to the residents, we try to get them all together to explain, you know, the roadway process, the special assessments and all that, and then we want them to petition us for the roadway improvements, right? But there is, you know, in Minnesota state statute, you know, council can order a project rather than having the residents petition for a project. So it's certainly an option. It's just something we haven't done in the city of Grant. At least in my tenure.
Great, go.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brad, part of the developers agreement, does that include paving part of 88?
It does, up to, I think, maybe 100 feet past their entrance is what I want to say, Councilmember Anderson.
Does that get
So-
the driveway of the new house on the north side of 88th? Does it go that far, or just to the new road?
I think it just goes just past the new road into the development.
Oops. Okay. So in the CIP, we had actually about 63,000 in patching for the entire length of McCusick. You just broke it in half based on the two segments you had in there. So your recommendation would be that the city contribute the maintenance cost towards this project if it were to move ahead as a petition project of the 31,000?
That is what I would recommend, but it certainly would be a worthy discussion point for council to consider including the other half of McCusick, since it is being reconstructed by the developers. So I want to say both halves were equally the same, around $31,000 or just over $31,000. So that's something you guys, something as a council you could consider.
And then our current policy, does it allow us to assess parcels not on the road but use the road, like Lofton or maybe a part of 88th where their main entrance or only entrance is using McCusick?
There is a little bit of wiggle room in our policy. That's a gray area, but we certainly could explore some different methods of doing some assessments. And we could certainly consider looking at that roadway segment that enters off of McCusick.
I mean, I see some benefit. Lofton, basically you don't get to Lofton if you don't drive on McCusick, so is there a benefit there? I know a 1/4% or a quarter share is used. It's a bit confusing in section 3 of the policy on parcels fronting the road but not addressed on the road, parcels addressed on the road but not fronting the road. Typically, I've seen that ability to just apply a benefit to parcels that use the road but aren't necessarily on the road. So I think there's probably some benefit to maybe a bigger footprint, if you will, for doing this. I think this is a unique situation for the city at that we have a developer taking on a big share of a road improvement cost. And I'd like us to consider ways to maybe utilize that to get the whole thing done. And I'd be in favor of at least starting with the neighborhood meeting.
And then depending on that, maybe have like a workshop or something to talk about.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
As to the neighborhood meeting, would that include the properties that use it but aren't on it, like Lofton you just said? I mean, generally,
Yeah.
would it?
Yeah,
Yes, it generally would. If we email or send out letters to all the residents that are adjacent or, adjacent to the roadway. So if we wanted to move up Lofgren into the 2026 plan with this segment of McCusick, we could certainly do that. And then we would send out letters to those residents that would be adjacent to Lofgren.
Thank you.
so that's something we would need to decide before next steps.
Yeah, so I think, again, my recommendation or the motion that I'm seeking is to, move up McCusick Road segment 88th Street to Manning Avenue. And then if council desires, we could certainly include Lofgren Avenue as well.
Okay.
To the 2026 plan. Again, I don't know the exact timing of when the developer plans to do McCusick, but I know it's not going to be this year, and I'm pretty sure that if it happens next year, it'll be later in the year. And like I said, even if the council were to order the improvements versus having the residents petition, that whole process between getting it, ordered and improved and bid and doing the special assessment hearings typically takes 9 months to a year, just because we only have 1 month, only one council meeting per month. So I guess I would recommend if council desires that we include Lofgren Avenue with the motion.
Brad, when we had the meetings with the developer, and they decided that, obviously that 88th Street was where they're entering, and that's where they're going to pave. If we pave the rest, do you think, looking at a, cars per day or something, which is the route that they would take? Would they go to Manning now because it's paved? Or would they go to 96 because we didn't pave it? And then the people that want to go to Manning would eventually have the developer pave that on his own dime. You know what I mean? So if we do it, probably half the people or more are going to go to Manning, depending on, if your studies and how many cars per day go down Manning from that area versus 96. If somebody's going to work, they're going to Manning, So that's the question that I have. Why would we pay for it when it's very possible that the residents would force the developer to pave it after they complained about, we've got to go to Manning and this just sucks.
Well, so I think the developer has a good reason why they wanted to make the improvements to McCusick is because they wanted their neighborhood to have a nice road to get out to 96, right?
Okay.
So they're offering to pave that segment of roadway, assuming that their residents would use McCusick to get onto 96 and then maybe back to Manning. Now, you guys know the condition of McCusick, and I think a lot of people would want to use the, the improved half versus, even though it's shorter to Manning, taking a right off of 88th rather than a left. But, who knows how traffic behaves? It's more of a, an art than a science, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right.
I don't think you'll see the developer pave a city street. It was
Whoa.
not part of his agreement. but
Yeah.
I think some of the issues before with like cut through traffic was before the roundabout was put in on 96. And if anybody's tried to go across Manning or take a left off of McCusick at certain times of day, good luck.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of traffic is gonna increase, just because if you're on 96, it's much easier to go around the roundabout and go south on Manning than try to cut through McCusick. Now, when that was a four-way stop at 96 and Manning, yeah, a lot of traffic would cut down McCusick over to Manning because you could get in there. But now at the roundabout, you just don't have the brakes in the Manning traffic during certain parts of the day, in my opinion. I think if we got money budgeted to fix that road, I just hate wasting $30,000 to $60,000 to patch something when there's an opportunity to kind of fix it right here. Yes, John, do we pay for it? Some, the residents are paying some, developers paying some. I think there's some benefit to go all the way around, and I think maybe the cost should go all the way around a little bit. That's,
Yeah.
this is a little bit of a unique opportunity. This isn't just the people that live on McCusick, like the roads we talked about earlier. I think there's some benefit there, and maybe casting a broader net with Lofton at least gives them the option.
So are you saying not only take maintenance dollars that were for Lofton to put in this project, but also assessment to Lofton residents? I just want to make sure.
I think you include Lofton in the neighborhood meeting. Lofton's obviously not in the condition McCusick is, and I didn't have a
Yeah.
chance to look at Brad's map before the meeting. I don't see that one as having a lot of issues. My point was, we've got 31,000 or 63,000 planned for McCusick in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
Do we use 31? Do we use both? Do we
okay.
look to assess those that benefit, that aren't sitting on McCusick, a quarter share per policy, if that's possible? That would be why I would consider inviting them.
So Brad, if I understand what you said a bit ago, you would need an amended motion to do that?
No, we haven't made a motion yet, Mayor, but I think the motion should just be to
sorry.
include McCusick Road and Lofgren, McCusick Road between 88th Street and Manning Avenue and Lofgren Avenue, from 2027 into 2026.
I think we need to include from 96, don't we?
96 to 88th?
96 all the way to McCusick.
Well,
That's the
we could
footprint.
certainly add those to the mailing list, right? And have them be part of the neighborhood meeting. I guess I see where you're going, Councilmember Anderson. I think you're right. I think the entire thing needs to be moved.
And just for clarity, from what you're trying to explain as a possibility, we wouldn't be redoing Lofton. It would just be they would get partially assessed for redoing McCusick, correct?
If it fits the policy. yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
Kim, do you have anything to add?
Mayor and council members, no, I would just say that all of these other options would absolutely be discussed, and you guys would decide on that. If we can move forward and move this into the 2026 10-year capital plan and get a meeting, neighborhood meeting on the books, and we will have a lot more information.
Okay, you want to make the motion?
I'll make that motion with the 31,000 maintenance budget for that east half of McCusick. And including the Lofton neighborhood in the neighborhood meeting.
Second?
Mr. Mayor and council members, some clarification. I don't think the recommended motion here includes any budget dollars, so I
Good,
would not do
perfect.
that.
Even better. All right, I'd move that we
Maintenance
revise the 10-year CIP to include McCusick Road between Highway 96 and Manning Avenue from 27 to 26.
With Lofton.
And include the Lofton neighborhood in the neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cornett.
All right.
Councilmember Rogg.
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye. All right. There's no action items for our city planner, Jennifer Swanson, nor our city attorneys, Amanda or Nick. That brings us to new business, consideration of the Stillwater Fire Service contract extension. We talked a little bit about that already in the budget meeting. Are there any questions on that? Because we covered it pretty good. Okay, then we're down to the resolutions for the preliminary budget and preliminary levy. So you just need a motion on that, right? And I
On
think we-
each one.
Yep, I think we pretty much had the discussion in the workshop. Who was going to make the thing? Ben, you were really itching to do that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do the first one, 25-12 first.
Yep, I motion to approve 2025-12. Be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Grant, Washington County, Minnesota hereby adopts a preliminary city general fund budget for 2026 in the amount of $2,216,133.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett.
All right.
Councilmember Rogg.
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye. The next one,
then-
25-13. Ben, you want to do that one too, unless anyone, okay. Go for it, Ben.
Which one is that? I don't know that I have that.
The 2025-13.
All right. Yes, okay. A motion to approve 2025-13, establish the 2026 general fund preliminary levy certification at $1,715,836.
Second?
Councilmember Cornett.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg.
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye. Unfinished business, there is none. Discussion items, staff updates. Any other staff updates?
Mr. Mayor, council members, did we get a motion for 6A? The Stillwater contract?
Oh, we skipped over that. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad. I did not ask for a motion on that. Can we get a motion on the Stillwater Fire Service contract extension?
Yeah, I move that we approve the City of Stillwater Fire Service contract extension.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett.
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg.
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Mayor Giefer.
Aye, and thank you for keeping me on task there, Kim. I don't know what was going on in my brain. Okay, unfinished business, none. Discussion items, staff updates, anything? Okay, city council reports, future agenda items.
I'm happy to. Just, I think we all know that there was a terrible incident in Minneapolis. I think we're all very sad and upset that it happened, but we appreciate residents reaching out to us to let us know their thoughts on it. That said, as city council members, we're not able to make changes relative to gun reform, for example, and things like that. But, certainly, I think all of us take all of this very seriously, and so I don't think it's a lack of caring or effort on our parts. It's just we're limited as a city council on what our jurisdiction is and what we can and can't do. That said, I understand that people want to see action and things happen. Either it's whole variety of things, right? And so we certainly appreciate that and understand. And, I certainly have reached out to our Congress people just to let them know that, we did, that, where are they at on this, and just to see where they're at. And so, and see what action plans those Congress people have. And I have already heard from Representative Johnson, who let me know that he has been working towards an action plan on school safety. So I'm happy to keep everyone up to date if I hear more from these people. But again, as city council members, our hands are a little tied on what we can physically do.
Nice to say. Okay. Community calendar, September 3rd through September 30th. Who would like to, anyone?
I can read it.
Okay, let's see.
All right, Montevideo Public School Board meeting Thursday, September 11th and September 25th, Montevideo School District Education Center, 7 p.m. Stillwater Public School Board meeting Thursday, September 11th, Stillwater City Hall, 7 p.m. Washington County Commissioners meeting Tuesdays, Government Center, 9 a.m. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Councilmember Cornett?
Aye.
Councilmember Rock?
Aye.
Councilmember Cremona?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Gifford?
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.